Should be live. In the doubt. Hello guys. I think there is a bit of lag. Not lag, a bit of delay. So is it active? Active? Awesome. Oh, you are so many. That's so exciting. I really wish I can hear you. Awesome. Great. Volume is good. Volume is good. Oh, sounds good. Visual good. Great. Okay, the chat is going up super quickly, super fast. Guys, thank you to be here, really. Super appreciated. Cool. I think there is a bit of a natural delay in the stream. So if you don't see me exactly in the timeline, that's why. Okay, so I can take off these because this was just to test my audio. I try to constantly check the chat because it's going so fast. Love you guys. Well, it's not so bad in here. We are officially in lockdown. Oh, there is a ciao principessa. I know who it is. Ciao ragazzi, anche a tutti gli italiani. Anzi, fatemi sapere quanti siete, così so come regolarmi con la lingua. Ciao a tutti. Okay, I want this to be a conversation, so feel always free to write here in the chat because I want to know your questions, your opinions. I want to know how the video is going, how the audio is going. Because if this works, I really want to use it every now and then. Especially these days because the baby... Oh, hi. The baby is coming. We have contractions in the other room. Small, mild contractions, but we are there. Napoletano non ce la faccio. Non provo neanche a farlo perché... Pieno di romani. Allora, cominciamo a farvi vedere qualcosina. Vediamo se è a fuoco. Devo tenere un momento solo. Vedrete sparire un secondo la camera perché va refreshata. Ok. Siamo in live. Okay, and I was speaking Italian without even know it. So, let's focus a bit. That's the model I want to paint today. And since I want to paint it really quickly in a very nervous and sketchy way, I think we can make it in a couple of hours. I don't really have a time for this streaming. I want just to paint and hang out until you're having fun and until we drop. Oh, so many people. Che impressione sentirti parlare in italiano. Fa strano anche a me. Essere seduto qui e parlare italiano fa veramente strano. Ok, I have to be... Guys, thank you. You don't have to. Thank you so much. Okay, I hope that the video is smooth enough. I can stay here just reading the chat all day. You are amazing. Okay, so the model is inspired to Blasphemous, and a lot of you already noticed the main source for this idea. This is not 3D printed. This is, let's call it a sculpture. I sculpted the hands, the feet, the big skull here in the end, the fur here behind. And the original sculpture was a souvenir. I think is some kind of super resistant plaster. Probably the kind that is used by dentists. It was incredibly hard. I ruined my pliers here to remove the head and a couple of drill points just to drill the main inserts inside the hands and feet. Yeah, even the process was a bit blasphemous because I have really to cut Jesus' head. Okay, probably this is something that I don't have to say in the streaming. What material is sculpted? The main material, I think, was some kind of dental plaster because it's super resistant. And the other parts are built with milliput and a lot of metal wire inside, just to give strength and structure. For the textures, I used the putty that I used on the Space Marine. The same kind of modeling putty. Is really dense, and you can basically sculpt it and makes naturally this kind of rough texture. Same for the priest. Yeah, really blasphemous. Guys, thank you. Really, you don't have to. I really prefer you to join the Patreon. Don't do this. I'm embarrassed, really. Thank you so much. Great. Yeah, hashtag millibutter. If you want to see the products, I'll show you. I used this model filler here. Is basically a resin putty. And the beauty is that if you don't mix it with the plastic glue, as I did on the Space Marine, you get a super quick drying time. And moving the brush, I used a old super rough brush. Let's see if I can find it. No? Something old, something ruined. you can move this dense paste to create any kind of textures. And you can modulate the texture using the plastic glue. Doesn't matter if you don't have plastic underneath, because plastic glue inside has a bit of resin. And when you mix it with the filler, you obtain something that is super resistant. This is just simple armature wire, but the texture really is super resistant. The idea was to make the model for gaming, so it has to be super resistant in every part. And using this kind of filler, you get also a bit of elasticity, so these kind of little movements are not a problem for the texture. I'm not really embarrassed, yeah. I'm excited. I have to admit that this is exciting. You are 400 at the same time. I never talked about modeling or anything else about so many people. Oh yeah, I have a couple of big things here. Oh, I want to show you this, because I'm super excited. Before starting to work seriously, I received this stuff between yesterday and today. And this is stuff that I want to paint on the channel. So you'll see this kind of models very soon. So the first one is... I'm so excited for this. This huge Captain America is a 1/6 scale, and just to give you an idea, I'll send you a link, and I'll probably make a full review about this model. Take a look at the dimension of the shield. Ooh. So that's my hand. It's huge. Can't wait to start working on this. And today I had also these. I can show you a couple of pieces to let you understand the scale of this stuff. Take a look here. This is the head, and it will not be only a bust, but a full figure. So try to imagine the scale of this angry space marine. So you'll see this stuff in the next future. I really want to come back on this kind of resin kits that were my main thing in the last years, before coming back to miniatures. Yeah, I will also Fat Thor coming in a beautiful pose. He's like jumping with the axe, and the kit has already inside all the stuff needed to put inside lights and LEDs. Ok, cercherò di farlo un po' bilingue, soprattutto nelle cose importanti, promesso. Una volta finito il video vi lascio tutti i link, che adesso non mi vengono in mente i nomi dei produttori, ma vi faccio vedere tutto. Ok, so let's move again on this guy here. Every now and then I have to check the focus, so if you see me doing something like this, you know what I'm doing. And since I'm a bit concentrated on what I'm doing, I'll probably switch language every now and then, so expect everything for this streaming. Okay. There's one by figures. I'll send you the links. Oh, wait a second. I probably have something. I'll send you in the chat because I saved them. 1, 2. The links for the Big Space Marine and the Captain America. Okay, let's start doing something. I can chat all day, it's not a problem. Chat is never a problem. So let's see if this is something that I can share. Yeah, there's a bit of lag on the reflex. Because it took a lot of the CPU. Okay, so the main inspiration for this guy, we don't have a lot of pictures. You should see my screen now, and I prepared the images. So this is our main guy. And this is just a fan art because we don't really have, or at least I didn't found any real good reference. That's what you see in the game. The game is Blasphemous, and this is one of the not the first one, the second real boss. Nope. I should have another image here. This is what you see when you meet the guy. So that's the scene that I wanted to recreate. I put his head in a more active and aware position because it's just not really dangerous. But the guy, yeah, is lying on the statue like he's part of it. And he has this big skull here coming from this big chunk of muscles and the huge horns. So my main objective here is to separate the statue from his body, and everything will be this kind of in this kind of desaturated tones. I want to work a bit and play with the textures because I make it super rough. Oh, you're here. Super rough and here. And I want to keep the statue smoother and cleaner. Like to make him the real monster here, the real unnatural thing in scene. And to give you an idea of the scale, you can already see my hand, but that's the standard human. So it will be massive on the field. A proper monster for a Warcry campaign. Okay. Yeah, I made a mess with the different views. Okay. I'll try to ask your questions, so I'm going to check every now and then the chat. And if you want to see something around this view, you need only to ask, because we have also this option here. Whoop. So we can move around a bit the view and check what there is around the table. No, I don't want to go to white marble here. I want at least something... Well, it could be white marble, but heavily weathered. Because it should be inside the catacomb. Oh, video blurred. Let's check. Let's check. Whoop. Yeah, so I'm in manual focus, so I can adjust everything. I should probably look a bit less at the screen and more here. That's a new thing. New word. I'll leave you all the details about Captain America and the Space Marine in the comments. At the end of the video, I'll upload every link that maybe we talk about. Okay, so I'll switch to my camera. Here, a bit of focus. So I want to start putting some tones on the model really quickly. And I'll probably use the airbrush just to give a first impression. As you see, in this case, I didn't use a very strong and precise black and white sketch. I wanted to stay a bit more in the grayscale. And in this case, I used, I tell it often in the videos that you can use spray cans to obtain the same kind of effect. And I want to make a video to show you how you can control a spray can almost as an airbrush. If you use the right motion, and there is a secret on spray cans that I reveal on a video, you can really control the spray in a very, very precise way. And this almost seems like made with the airbrush. The reason for the spray cans in this case was just to have more strength. Because the base is some kind of very smooth plaster. So I wanted to be sure to have a very strong coverage on top of this. And using spray cans with a lacquer base, you get a lot of strength. Also down here, that will be rubbed constantly against the field. Something that I don't really care on gaming models, because you have the empty base underneath, but here you can easily scratch the paint, and the hole you create here can easily walk in the upper part. So in this case, everything is sealed and is super reliable in every condition. So the idea is to use very desaturated tones. So from here I have Kimera on the palette. I'll heavily desaturate every single tone I'll use on the model. Even if I'll probably start with the inks, that is the opposite way, completely opposite way. But I want a bit to improvise. I don't want to overthink this project. It's something that I want to do really freely, really easily. You're great. You are great, guys. Okay, so I'll keep my view here from the video program, so I'm sure that I'm in focus. Whoop. And I want to bring a bit of contrast between his body, that will be mainly greenish, and the statue. So I don't want to go full white on her. I want to use the weathering to create some kind of visual jump between them. So I'm looking for a bit more smoothness on the statue, a bit of roughness on him. So I want to paint him in full brush, just to give him the real sensations of the brush strokes. I want to use the brush strokes as a sculpting tool in this case. And divide the colors between more cool tones here and something warmer here. That will be probably more the idea of some kind of dirt, or not really rust, but some kind of dirt and grime with the air tones. So I'll improvise a bit. In this case, I want you to see what I do just for fun, because in the video I always push on efficiency and to save steps, to save not really paint, because I love to waste paint, but a kind of paint that is more free. So let's start with something exaggerated. I want to underline a bit the shadows, and I start with deep violet. I want to hit a bit the shadows of the statue, and I'll put the violet directly in the brush. I think I can close the palette for now. That's this one. So we have a bit more space, and I can also reduce my face. Not like this, but like this. Oh, now that's a proper workspace. Airbrush, totally not cleaned. And whoop. In the video I'm always super clean and organized, but well, I'll try to be organized and clean. But sometimes in reality you have just to mess up a bit. So, pure inks in the airbrush, and you can use everything. I love inks because they are ready to use and because of their saturation. That in this case are a bit a downside for the general tones I want to apply. But they are ready to use, and you can modulate the transparency in a variety of different ways. You can just use the trigger to control the transparency, so you can stay close to the model and still obtain a super transparent tone, or increase the distance. That's the most basic way to control the spray. So it doesn't really matter if you have something transparent or opaque. You don't really need to add thinner in this case to obtain transparency. It's a safe way to obtain something even more transparent that's even safer, but I think that is something that you have really to learn to master the airbrush, because the real control is not inside here, but is in the trigger and the movement. And The point is that in all this movement, because this is another super important way to control the flow of paint, you obtain a super fine control. In this case I'm just playing around. I want to hide tones, especially around the figure of the monster. Is Piedad, the official name. So I'm almost framing. Again, I'm working with a super general plan. I want to have tones. I want this to be, again, the frame of a movie or the frame of the video game. So I don't care if the tone is not really realistic. That's the beauty of working on fantasy figures. I don't have to worry too much about the plausibility and the realism of the light. And this is probably the first time you can hear in real time the sound of my spray. Something this kind of. And you can do it in a couple of ways. You can keep the pressure and move the trigger. This is pretty useful if you need to paint something big, or if you need a constant flow of air on a big surface. Or if you need more precision, you can just use multiple shots, so you can create something smooth in a multitude of little shots. And I'll try to avoid Piedad. I want to avoid the monster, because I want to switch completely the tones in him. I still have to keep this kind of idea of warm shadows, but I'll probably switch to a warm brown to fight against those natural tones. Oh, also here. So in this case, the area is bigger, so I want to move the trigger, but keep the pressure. Because I'm moving the airbrush in such a large kind of movement that I want to keep the steady contribute from the air. Can you hear me with the compressor in background? It's not really super loud. Thank you, guys. Bottom right corner. Yeah, sorry for the lag. I think that's because my line is a bit overwhelmed. So inks are better. Okay. No, inks are not better. And again, I'm using inks because they are ready from the bottle. There's no better or worse in this kind of works. You can use whatever you want. Again, the choice of inks in this case is because of their natural transparency. But again, you can make transparent every kind of any kind of paint. So especially working with Kimera and using them in a very dilute solution, in a very thin down kind of solution, you can obtain something really similar. So it's just because they're ready and I don't have to add stuff that is basically extra money added to your paint. But Kimera are super good with the airbrush, and you can obtain totally this kind of behavior without any problem. Oh, c'è anche Diego, grandissimo. Ciao ragazzi, mi mancate tanto. Airbrush will get clogged with my paint no matter how much thinner I use. If your airbrush clogs super easily, you're probably working with a pressure that is too low. And again, the movement of the trigger is really important because especially working with this small quantity of air and pressure every time, you really need to mobilize continuously the needle. So if you spray like this, it's very easy to have the paint blocked inside the nozzle. You want this kind of movement to continuously move the paint and remove any kind of residue. I'm going a bit heavier down here. Inside here should be super dark. I'll try to catch, again, that's the beauty of working with the airbrush. You have to think about the positioning of the model. I want to catch these folds of the dress here. So I'll probably shoot in this kind of angle. See? To get them where they are deeper. Also here. The trick, if you have to catch a detail with the airbrush, is to aim outside the detail. You don't want to really put the spray on the detail, but let's say that we want to catch, let's see, an edge. Okay, this edge here is even too easy. But let's say that we want to catch this edge. In this case, my spray at the end produces a dot. And if I want to catch only this part, I have to aim outside that target. So I'm basically aiming to my finger here. You can use the finger to have a physical target, just to have a reference. But when you are trained, you can just spray freely. But the idea is this one. You are here and you spray outside the objective. And the overspray naturally catches that detail. Because we are too worried about the overspray. And the overspray is part of the tool. It's like worrying about, don't know, the bristles of the brush. The overspray is naturally part of the workflow with the airbrush. So instead of trying to find solutions to minimize it, it's better to use it. Especially because if you see canvas painters or illustrators or people airbrushing motorcycles helmet, if you want a really sharp line with the airbrush, you need some kind of masking. You can't really produce, even if you're super trained in making fine and precise lines, the line will be still a bit blurry. So if you want something super sharp, you need to mask. In any other situation, you can just use the overspray at your own advantage. Because it's the overspray that really produces the blending. So if you spray something this solid, it's just like a simple solid layer of paint. Something that you can do with the brush, with a single brush strokes, with a simple brush stroke of undiluted paint. But it's the overspray that creates the blend and the sensation of smoothness. Okay, I'm overdoing a bit for sure, but starting to like what I see. I want to increase it here. This will be my main shadow. And also here under the neck. I want to do something super dramatic here on the face. So I'll put a strong first shadow here. Then we'll find a way to make it even darker. Okay, super quick, super sketchy. Just to have an idea of the mood of this catacomb. Oh, and also here in the edge. I still didn't decide if I want to make this base in black as a proper base, as a gaming base. Because it's very big, and I don't want to have this huge rim of black around here. We'll see, we'll see. I want more this to feel like a piece of scenery, so I don't want to divide the base. Could be useful for gaming. I really like the black rim for gaming. And if you notice, my bases are always in black. I don't like to put color on the base. I like those kind of scenic bases where the environment moved down on the edge, but except for that, I like to keep everything divided. It's like a little frame around the model. Okay, I think that's enough, and we can come back later. I'll check quickly the chat if you are still there, because I'm totally not aware of how it's going. Both color and light. An advice for beginners. Well, advice for beginners, beginner airbrusher. Don't go cheap with your airbrush. Avoid the super cheap airbrushes like the Fengda. I started with the Fengda, with a super cheap Chinese airbrush, but it's so annoying to work with that kind of tools. It's like you need a computer and you take something super cheap and not really good at doing its job. Oh, that's a language that I don't know. Okay. And again, practice. And practice on the models. Don't worry about this kind of experiments. Practice always on models. You can move from to another medium in this case if you really need to study a bit of illustration, but if you're painting miniatures, paint on miniatures. It's a different behavior, it's a different kind of workflow, so you really need to understand how the airbrush can work on this kind of flowing 3D model. So always try to work on miniatures. And a lot of you asked about my cleaning workflow. I switch again here, and that's my whole thing. Spray the cess. If I have to change colors that are really different from one another, I use a bit of the cleaner from the video. So that's the real time length of this process. Whoop. Quick rubbing. I know that there is a bit of risk with the Q-tips, let's put it here, to have some little hair inside the cup, but when it's wet and you move the Q-tip in a kind of vortex from bottom to top, and I think we lost this one. Sorry for this. I have to refresh the main camera. This is something new. I think that is something about the connection with YouTube because it's really something new. Okay, so again, quick movement with the Q-tip and I'll load again. And this is really what I do when I have to change very different colors. So I want to switch from black to white. This is the kind of clean I use. And if you can see inside here, probably not, but it's pretty clean. And if you have to change the color to make something that goes next to each other, something like a blend, you don't really want to separate the two colors too much because they will still be blended on the model, so you want something able to flow a bit. Okay. So I want to do something like this also on him. I'm thinking to push on the idea that is almost half human and half tree. So I want these branches to continue on the body. So for my warm shadow, I'll probably go with a brown of some kind. And let's see what I have here. Raw amber is a bit too light. Let's try with burnt amber. This is something that I always have on the table. Because burnt amber is a beautiful tone. I'll try to show it also here on the palette. And I'll enlarge a bit the screen here. Oop. Because it has a lot of tones inside. So this kind of warm brown with a bit of yellow inside. There's for sure a lot of red and orange. Well, obviously, because if there is red and yellow, there is also orange. Advanced color theory. Super advanced. So let's go with this. And this particular pot is very transparent. So I can spray without any fear. Like this. Well, we don't need it, so we can also close it. Oh, it's almost finished. And all the art store are closed. That's a drama. That's a real drama. I think I have an extra pot hidden somewhere. And let's see. I'll show you a closer shot so you can see where I'm going to hit the model. Focus, 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 focus. Okay. Whoa. Better. So I want to separate these shapes of the model. Strong shadows. I want to frame the figure. Again, I'm just creating the scheme on the go because I want this to be very natural and to flow without really strong changes of tones. So I'll overlap paint in a couple of different ways, and especially for him, again, this will be just the first idea of the tones, because I really want to give a texture even on the smooth surfaces. And you can probably see that here the body was super smooth, so I put a bit of my texture that I used for the branches also here on the skin to make it more suffering and monstrous. Quick check to the chat. Very, very good. Rhodesia. Cap. Yeah. If I don't see your question, just insist. Keep going. Keep asking. Sooner or later I'll see it. Liquitex are the best inks. No, not really. I really like them because in Italy and also here in Ireland are the first thing that you can find entering the art shop. So that's is always my main reason if I have to choose a brand or another that are on a similar level. And Liquitex inks are very saturated, probably between Daleroni and Liquitex. They have in general a higher saturation, but the range of colors of the line is really small and limited. It's not a problem because usually you use just to prime and to set the main tones, and obviously you can mix them, so it's not really a limit. But Daleroni gives you a much wider variety of options, and they are still good. They're probably a bit more transparent in general, even the dark tones. But again, they are this kind of small and not really meaningful nuances. So in general, go with the products that you have in your local shops, that is easier to find online, maybe. Even the inks from Scale 75 or Vallejo, super good, especially because they dry faster. Part of the physical behavior of inks is to take more time to completely dry, and this is something that can be super useful because you get not only this kind of overlapping of tones, but they actively merge together on top of another after the few minutes you put them in place. And you get even smoother transition because in this spot here they are not only optically overlapped, well, they are physically overlapped obviously, but they are mixing together in this spot, creating a new tone. So you are not only layering a single flat tone. In the overlapping with the black and white sketch, you obtain a variety of new different sensations. And if you put different colors together, they mix each other visually and physically. That's why I love ink so much. But again, the main idea is that they are super saturated and easy to use from the bottle. Trying to catch a bit the volume of these horns here. Again, here. And for the people that is connecting now. This is a conversion made from a souvenir statue of the Piety, or better, the Pietà. I want to use the Italian for this, of Michelangelo. And I modified the body in this kind of monstrous figure. That is Piedad from Blasphemous. And if I can, I'll try to catch a bit. The muscles are super smooth, they're not really sculpted, but if I can obtain a bit of movement here, I'll probably go over everything in the next stages, but you see that bit of shadow is already something. You have to remember that even if you are adding something that is extremely subtle, really extremely, even if almost transparent, without any real presence of the model, it will be still there. So everything you do will be on the figure. And I think that it's important that you know that there is something else on the model that maybe nobody will notice, but you thought about it. Oh no, again. But now I saw it in real time. I think that is the energy saving fighting against the streaming. Usually just go black by itself. Okay. So it's messy. It's totally messy, but it's starting to tell a story. It's starting to have some kind of behavior. And this is one of those things that you can totally do with the brush. Super important for me to always say that everything I do with the airbrush is just a deformation or a new version of something that I learned from the brush. So this is just a simple layering of tones. Oh no. Reflex, work with me. Help me. Come on. Okay, it's live. Live. Sorry about that. Cucumber. Try this from Sita. These are very good. Yeah, again, don't focus too much about on brands. Don't worry about that. Brand is always a personal thing. So if someone tells you you have to use these, again, I don't really trust this kind of excessive fidelity to a brand. You need to like it. If you like it, is all okay. Again, you can use GW paints, you can use craft paints. I have a full drawer of craft paints, and they are crazily good. But only because I tried them. If somebody would have told me, try this kind of paints, they're super cheap. They are sold in with the school stuff for children. But they're still good. I have, especially for the Italians, because I don't think you can find this brand outside Italy. Whoop. The Allegro Colors della Stamperia. These are super cheap. I think they are a couple of euros for 59 milliliters. And they're good. And this was an idea from a suggestion from Riccardo Agostini and Francesco Farabi. They use this kind of stuff and it's good, really. But I had to try because even if the advice was coming from them, that are amazing painters that I respect and love over any kind of limits, I had to try. Okay, again, I'm overdoing everything because in the meanwhile I'm talking, I'm trying to figure out if what I say makes sense in my super fluid English. So usually in the videos I can focus all the attention in one step at a time. And in this case I'm trying to do more than my brain can handle. Okay. I have some volumes, I have an idea of tones. I have this kind of subtle, well, not so subtle contrast between the statue and the figure. So I think I can move to some base tones. And since I have already this brown here, that I know you shouldn't do this because I said it, but I had a lot of color here. Yeah, it's a bit slow. I'm noticing now that the camera is a bit slow in following my movement. But since I'm doing everything here on the figure, shouldn't be a real problem. Again, sorry for that. Okay, so quick clean without even the Q-tip. Just quick shake, spray a bit. You should do this inside the pot because you don't want to breathe this. Oh, and a lot of you ask me about my setting on the table, if I have a spray boot, if I have something that can actually suck paint from my spray, but as you can see, I don't have overspray. If you work in this kind of precise way, and usually I don't paint big armies, so I don't have this kind of volume of primer, for example, and painting with this kind of precise motions is super difficult to find overspray on the table and here around. Probably my real overspray is coming from the upper part of the pot. That's where I can see a bit of smoke coming out. But again, you can't see these in the videos, but when I have to work with big volumes of paint, I always this mask under the table. And this is an heavy duty mask from the hardware store with interchangeable filters made for solvents and paints. So I don't feel the need of a spray boot because really I don't have dust, I don't have any kind of accumulation over any surface here on the table, but I'm very careful about what I breathe. So if you spray a lot, even if you have a spray booth, find something like this. And you don't need any kind of super specific model or stuff from the model shop. Go with the hardware store you can't go wrong with the heavy duty stuff. Probably is even too much, but there's no reason to risk. Okay, let's check again. Focus and... Okay. Oh, we have been here for an hour. I always tell that I'm super fast, but in an hour I did nothing. Yeah, if I have to work for get model paints. Basically go from those cheaper paints. Yeah, I can go out with the big mask. And when I talk in that mask, if I feel comfortable, I'll do it at the end. I really sound like Bane. Okay. Colors. So I want something green, something to start giving the sensation of the green but unhealthy tones of the skin. I have a couple of options. I was looking in the drawer before the video. I have this kind of that's a new color that I bought last week. It's technically a brown. It has this kind of greenish tones. Let's see, it's on the palette. Never used it. The pot is totally new. And its name Antelope Brown. And let's move it a bit with the... Oh, it's a brown. There's some green in it, a lot of yellow. It looks like Snake by Leather. That's something to remember. But not good in this case. Not good. I want a proper green. So let's use a green. Sap green. Whoop. And if you don't use... you probably saw me... Yeah, during in the video about the orc. I used green with the base of yellow to give it a bit of support and a warm base to work on. But in this case, I want to use the gray I have underneath to create something more desaturated. So let's close the palette. So I'll quickly base the main part of the body. I want to avoid here the piece of cloth. Again, I'm not looking for precision at this stage. This should be set in a catacomb. So if I have a bit of green on the statue, it's not a problem. It could be moss, could be mold. I'll try also to avoid the skull because it will be properly in the skull tones. Again, I didn't set a time limit for the stream. I'm just going for a while because I'm really enjoying the process, and I have a reason to talk with someone. Yeah, because another secret is that I tend to do this kind of reasoning by myself, talking in. This volume. Okay. Cool. I like it. Like it. In camera is a bit more desaturated and is more what I want. Again, this is only a base. It will be more a grayish skin tone, but I want a green base on top. Here in person is a bit more vibrant, so later I'll have to kill this kind of let's move the focus a bit more like this so you don't lose anything in my constant movement. Yeah. This. Yeah, I like it. I'm starting liking this idea. Okay, a bit more here in the middle. If I insist too much, it will become super green. But it's already quite nasty and unhealthy. Not very natural. I love how this kind of tone is fighting against the purple here on the statue. This was a super basic reasoning on color theory. Not even color theory, just looking at the color wheel. We are always looking for more contrast and more striking jumps between one place and another on the figure. Okay. I think we can probably move to the brush. I can give just a quick base also on the statue, just to know where to go from here, because my main tones will be for sure this kind of green and this kind of purple. So this was the mic, sorry. This was my idea and this was the objective. So I have more these tones here on the monster. I have something like these, like shadows, and probably mid-tone. Yeah, because I want to really set the mood on the scene. It won't really be the color of the statue, but something in this range. So I want this to be the main focus. So I'll probably move to something cold in the upper part of the statue. It will not be really this set of colors here. Will be something down here, more shaded and desaturated. But yeah, that's the idea, because I want to keep a bit of space to yellowish tones, something like this for the figure. So I'll move more on this side of the wheel. Whoop. And whoop. Great. Let's see if there are more questions. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But really, you don't have to. I'm really embarrassed. Oh, Duccio! Ciao, Duccio. E dobbiamo fare ancora quella chiacchierata che ci siamo promessi al monte. Ok. Oh, and I'll put the link for the palette, not for the palette, for the wheel also under this video when it's finished. Guys, thank you. I'm embarrassed, really. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. You are the best. Okay, let's go back to work. Thanks. So. I don't think I have the proper tone in the drawer. I can still take a look. Ooh, no. Let's do something extreme. Let's do something extreme that I can tone down everything with a brush. So I'll move, and you know that this is another color that I love. Refresh the camera. Turquoise. I use it all the time. It's a beautiful color because it's in between green and blue, so you can really use it in every possible situation. This will be for sure too saturated and too bright, but it's just to add tones and to introduce a bit of that bluish sensation inside the statue. I have to work with transparent tones because I want to use that grayscale I have already on the model. And again, this will be very powerful anyway, but then I can tone down everything with the brush. But yeah, I really want to push the tones in the cold spectrum. Now it's a bit too striking compared to the statue, but everything will be swallowed inside the tones I use later on the statue. But if you paint a statue in a simple gray, you're losing something. If you take a picture of a real statue in the center of a city, you see a lot of tones derived by the light that there is in that precise moment, the shadows that that precise kind of light projects. It's difficult to work. Not really because of the volume, but yes, a consistent weight. So I was saying, if you take a look at everything in reality, you'll see a lot of unexpected tones. So we have to move away from that simple view of reality we have, because our brain needs to simplify things. So again, if you think about the color of this, oh no, again, sorry guys, let's refresh it. Yeah, usually I have some kind of signal that is this is happening, but with the YouTube connection is just happening. So you should really start looking at things in a different way. I think that's the best advice I had from Alfonso Giraldes during his workshop about no metallic metals. He told me, look at the fucking metal. It was really the best advice I had about the topic. If you really start looking at things and maybe also taking pictures. A few days ago, Alessandra was mocking me because I was taking picture of a light pole in the street. Just because it was interesting. But everything is a reference that you can use somewhere. Or again, just copy reality. You see, I'm tuning down all the values and just adding tones. In this case, I'm not really scared about losing the sketch because it wasn't a real sketch. Usually I'm more careful in keeping the underpainting, but this was just a simple grayscale to get a bit of the volumes. I want to keep this kind of white here on top. This is keeping the sketch. But again, I'll go over with a lot of tones and washes probably on top. I just want to set a sensation. Okay. So now that you get the general concept, I'm starting moving a bit faster. So, quick clean of the airbrush. I'm not even using any product, just emptying the tank. I want to do something similar also for the horn, keeping the main skull just like it is. And for these, let's use total improvising burnt sienna, so more reddish. I'm keeping what I have from the turquoise inside. These are compatible colors, so I'm not really scared of generating a monstrous mix. And I want just to give a super quick kind of idea. And this is my way of basing a model. Usually working on a miniature, I try to put all the basic tones in place because okay, I can plan the scheme, and I always do. Even for this one, I had a specific reference, so the risk was minimal. But again, seeing the whole model all together, even if on paper you really feel that oh, again, that's too much work for the system. And active again. Sorry guys for that. I think his OBS is really suffering from the 4 different cameras. Whoop. Transparent. Okay, I'll stop for a second to check your questions because inks. Just give a super real quick. I was wondering when we were going to find some live painting. Awesome, thanks. Okay, the Terran Tutor. Oh, I love the Terran Tutor. He's a great guy. Could be an idea. Yeah, I would love to do some interesting collaboration. There's a Discord. Yeah, it's not really active, but it's part of our Patreon page. We are super active on Facebook. Facebook is the main thing of the Patreon. AliExpress. Yeah, don't spend too much on the compressor. You don't really need... Welsh, Jamaican, obviously Italian. Yeah, I'm Italian. E posso provarlo, parlando italiano. Dovrei avere molti più capelli per essere giamaicano. And this, I have to tell this also in English. I should have much more hair if I want to be Jamaican. Any issue with films? Yeah, sorry, I wanted to... The quality is not the maximum, but I wanted to be sure that at least this first live streaming was smooth. I am in a big set of apartments and thinners, and everybody's at home now, so I had to keep the quality a bit lower just to be sure. And we were talking about compressors. You don't need to invest too much in a compressor. A compressor is really a super simple tool, so don't spend a lot of money in that. If you're spending a lot of money in a compressor, it's because you need to have it super silent, and usually is where you can spend more money. Iwata makes a couple of really good compressors that produces almost nothing. Transparent. Yeah, inks can be opaque or transparent. Is something that, or not only, but can be semi-opaque or semi-transparent, if you see the thing in another philosophical way. So let's see a couple of examples here. Starting to be without space. You can check the transparency of every artistic color, so not only inks, but even heavy body acrylics, everything that is coming from a proper art store will have this kind of code, and you can check it here on the label. This is transparent, and you have the empty square. This is semi-opaque, so you have the black and white. And this was another transparent, so not a great example, but something like this one is properly opaque. So if you put this in the airbrush and you spray, or if you use it with the brush, you obtain exactly the behavior of any other glitch. I think it's dependent on the hour of the day and the people connected, because it's more frequent now. Sorry guys, I'll fix this in the next one, promise. So this is properly opaque, and a single spray of this will cover everything like any other kind of acrylic, like Molotov paint, like Kimera, like GW paints. But what you get is already diluted for the airbrush, and with a incredible kind of saturation that only inks and a couple of other paints can really deliver from the airbrush. Okay, so I'll check again the questions. There's gonna much you can expect varnish here. Maybe GW paints, better quality range of paints. They are priced similar. Again, paints are more GW paints are not low quality paints. They have a specific kind of covering power. They have a specific kind of pigment that is not better or worse. If you like them, use them. Don't worry too much about that. But yeah, there's stuff that is cheaper for sure. That's for sure, because with GW paints that's the problem. We have a slower internet now, and you are paying also for the brand with GW paint. So it's like buying the same T-shirt from a simple shop or from Gucci. So you have that kind of pricing. For the quality, I really suggest you to try different brands and different kind of paints. Again, I'm totally in love with Kimera. They are super difficult at the moment to obtain, because in Italy everything is blocked and locked. So you have to wait, but I love them. But again, they are not really easy to use in every circumstances. So even if I really push on this kind of brand and kind of paint, is very personal, and I'll probably show. Thanks. And I'll probably show how to use them in different conditions, because it's something that you have really to try with your own hand. Drying super fast. Yeah, I love alcohol-based acrylics. I used a lot of Tamiya paints, especially in the big models like the ones I showed you at the beginning, because they dry super fast. So if you need that kind of incredibly resistant kind of first layer, you can totally use that. And scale. Yeah, I have a drawer full of scale. Tell me if you want to see my collection of paints. That's something that would be my testament, because my wife will say how many paints I have in reality inside the drawers. Ok. Oh, here. Oh, Pierpaolo. Oh, manchi da un'ora in realtà non ho fatto chissà cosa, perché mi sono sbrodolato di parole, letteralmente. Ma siamo qua. We are here. You missed just a couple of steps. But it's still something. Okay, so. Let's move to the brush. So you'll see a bit of everything of my workflow. And let's show the palette. Let's move these a bit more in the back, so you can have a full view. Let's see what Pierpaolo think about the model. Okay, I think you like it. Also, we do a workshop in the US. That's a good question. They're asking me if I'll ever do a workshop in the US. My plan was to start moving around a bit this year, but with the baby coming these days and now the virus, all the plans were just a mess. But I really hope to move a bit next year. I want for sure to attend the Adepticon for the first time. I was really keen in trying the... Okay, so Alessandra is on the chat, so she is totally aware of how many colors I have. I really want to attend the Adepticon, and if I can move around a bit, especially if you want to attend some lesson and workshop, I'm super happy to stay a bit longer. Okay, I really wanted to come for the what's the name? I'll tell you. The Crystal Brush. Now everything is a golden demon and is a bit more limiting from an artistic point of view. Ah, we are locked again. Sorry again, guys. Refresh. But you had almost a picture of the model. Okay. I have to understand what is causing this. So I'll move to the brush. And let's say that we are going to paint the monster because it's more interesting than the statue. So I want to quickly prime the skull. This is already in a good tone, but I want something more interesting. I'll try to mix with my old mixing brush But when I am in the zone, when I'm painting seriously, I don't really care about the brushes. So if you see me using the super good brush for mixing, don't hate me. I'll fix the focus on the palette. I think that could work. Apply. Okay. So you shouldn't see any movement here. So let's pick something that could work for the bone. And yellow oxide is already a very good tone to start with. A bit of white. And what else? Just a bit of green, just the point, to make it more naturally flowing inside the rest of the scheme. I don't know if you can really see the tone. There's a bit of glare from the light here on top. It is a light bone tone. See it here. Oh no. That's annoying. That's super annoying. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. Okay. Fixed. I think it could be the battery going down here. There's too much tension here on the battery. If the problem is only this one, it'll be super easy to fix. So I was showing you the tone I mixed in this kind of almost a skin tone, but with that point of green inside, you get that kind of unhealthy tones. And you can mix skin tones in a variety of different ways. It's totally off topic because I'm not painting a skin in this case, but... And I'm blocking. I need more water here. I want to block a bit the shapes and the volumes. And here you can see in practice what I mean when I say that with the airbrush I do the same that I do with the brush. With the first stage with the airbrush, I was just fixing the main volumes and the main parts of the figure. And in this case I'm doing the same. It's just that with this approach I don't have the super smooth blending I have with the brush, but you see that I'm working with this kind of heavy dilution, and it's very easy to control the edges of the application, fading them away. So if I need to obtain already something that is a bit more controlled, I can work on top of this directly. And I don't consider this wet on wet because I'm working with a single color, so it's not really a blending. But I'm fixing these main shapes, so there's a bit of volume here on top of the teeth, the under part of the eye socket. Sorry, it's getting worse and worse. I have every time to refresh the camera again. It's not for sure the energy saving because I have it after 2 hours, so I don't really know what is his problem. Sorry again for these continuous interruptions. Okay. That is frozen. Yeah, sorry. Okay. I try to put an eye constantly on my screen to understand if I'm still live or not. Okay, so let's block this volume here super quickly. And it's not only because this is not a smooth space we're in, so I can go this simple and rough, but I would do the same thing for any kind of model where I want to add something more to the structure. Whoop. Whoop. So it's just a quick understanding of main volumes. And with the transparency I can modulate a bit, let's do the teeth, I can modulate a bit the opacity of the paint in different zones, so I can be heavier here on top, because I want to build a light, or more subtle down here, and blend. It's becoming difficult. It's becoming difficult. Sorry. Deeply sorry about that. Oh, I'm checking your chat. It's been distracting. Thank you guys. Thanks. Okay, I read something that could be the chat, but I don't want to silence the chat. So I'll to try different solutions for this problem. Okay, let's go back to the model. So here I'm adding a bit of white. Super simple set of tones to make bone. And at this stage, I'm already starting to use the brush to produce some kind of physical texture. The brushstrokes are a tool, and painters like Sergio Calvo Rubio and Alfonso Giraldes, they are masters in using this kind of volume and consistency to produce effects. And again, the brushstrokes have a precise meaning when you use them on a figure. And I want to really use this power to create a huge difference between the statue and the bone and the body. So here on the skull, I'm stippling. I started with a very diluted paint to create the initial set of tones and values. And here I'm going up, again using the stippling motion to give the idea of something full of little extra volumes and consistencies. I have to go back here to the original tone because I totally missed a spot where the neck becomes the skull. So I want to use again this kind of faded tone here on the side. And something that really helps to not only improve your painting but also improve your fun during the process is to avoid looking constantly for perfection. And with this I mean you have to look for perfection in your model. That's the point, I think. But you don't have to do every single layer and every single step in a perfect way, because that's not the final product. The final product will come out from a variety of different layers and brush strokes. So you don't want a super smooth initial layer and extremely precise application if you are still going to apply other 5 or 6 layers on top. You can refine later. Because the main part, the main thing to get, and again we are stuck. That's super annoying. It's at the first stage to get the volumes and the main contrast. Then layer by layer you'll build anyway your definition, because you are refining and cleaning the stages. So here I didn't have a plan of how down this kind of color should go. And I want to be free to improvise and to fix these things during the work. So if you are obsessed in the fixing all these parts from the beginning, you are just stressing yourself and losing a bit of this joy of the super loose and simple brush strokes. Stuck again. We are starting to enter in a very busy moment for the internet, I think. Yeah, because it's YouTube that is blocking my main camera. Let's see. Be the 3 life feeds. Yeah, it's for sure the too many cameras happening at the same time. I try to stop this one outside your main view, and I'll probably gain something from that. Whoop. Now I used this kind of system for full days of lessons online, but it's YouTube the problem now. It's making everything more complicated. Okay. And this is this suspicious rating. Okay. Let's keep going until we can. So again, the point was, feel free to be real painters. Feel free to move your paint where needed. Feel free to fix little details later. Especially if you want something with a lot of character and this kind of strength. Let's call it strength. This kind of movement. Again, if you look for the extreme smoothness and precision from the beginning, you are just limiting the possibilities. Here I moved a bit the tone with some red oxide. To an orangey shadow. It would be a bit more easier to read when it's dry. Let's move on this side here. I want to do the same here on the neck, because I want to join the bone in a very smooth and natural way to the greenish body. So in this case, I'm talking about the smoothness in terms of the transition. Talk about the transition, not really because I want it to look smooth. Difficult spots, and the branches here are literally entering inside my fingers. Okay, it's a bit more inside those kind of tones. And like this. So I can add a bit more of the bone tone to blend roughly at this point, but again, I can come back later when I have a more precise vision of this side of the model. Again, you can do this, the blending and the fixing with the brush, with the airbrush, with washes, with glazes, with the close set of layers. Still an option. That was the classic GW style before the washes and the oversimplification of the process. But again, it's still something that works for gaming models. The heavy metal style is something that works for gaming. Oh no. That works for gaming because in a certain distance you can really see only a couple of main details, and they push everything on the definition of the edges, so you can read better the shapes of the models, and a super simple shading of the main areas with the wash. So this is something that, if you think about it, technically it works. You can like it or not like it. In my case, I don't like the process. I understand why it technically works. No. It's happening. I'll try to don't use the palette, because I think that's this problem is increasing using the palette. Let's try this, and let's try to move the palette here in the middle. Ooh. So here you could see what I'm mixing and what I'm working on. I hope this will be more stable. We don't have the palette, but I think we can see the colors I'm using here. And if it's still not working, I can also close my face because you don't really need to see my stupid face. Let's check if there are questions. Visual reviews for Kimera. You want to give them a spin? Thanks. Ciao a tutti gli italiani, che vedo che ci sono parecchi. Ciao nella chat. Ciao a tutti. Oh, qua su sì. The names were Sergio Calvo Rubio and Alfonso Giraldes, aka Banshee or Banshee. Yeah, no questions. If you need to know something specific, just tell me. And I'll keep going with my stream of consciousness. Okay, read the man. Trying. Oh yeah, I have the scale inks. They work really well. I have them in my first drawer. I have the full set here. Stuck. No, there's no solution for this. Oop. We were talking about the Scale 75 inks. I have their set. They're really nice. Especially these two browns. I really like the Bart Amber and the Bar Sienna. Really similar. I love their yellow. It's really good. I don't really like the green. Lacks a lot of covering power, but if you support it with the yellow, you can still obtain something pretty good. And all the dark tones works super well. Again, the problem for this is the limited palette you have. No. Come on. Sorry guys, super sorry. It's getting worse. But I'll find the solution. I'll find the solution in a way or another. No. It's lasting every time a bit less. I'll try to turn it on and off again. Oop. Because I don't want to finish the stream with this unepic way. Okay. I'll keep this view, so if I mix some questions it's because I'm keeping constantly an eye on the camera to see if there's something happening. So let's come back to the model. And I want to do something like this also on the skin to really give an idea of some extra volumes. And for this I'll mix some green, a bit more here. I want to show you how the huge coverage. No, there's no solution. Whoop. I keep refreshing. the kind of tone you have when it's not so dark and concentrated. And I think I can use let's see. I want to start from orange because I want to create a kind of warm brown as a base. Let's add this green that is bringing a lot of desaturation, because in the orange you have a lot of red, obviously, and this will react with the green, creating this kind of desaturation due to their position on the color wheel. They are complementary, and when you mix two complementary together, you get some kind of gray. So I really want to use that to create my base tone. So I'm mixing again. Super sorry. Again, let's try to close also the face to limit to the minimum the other streams. But again, I think it's a problem of the YouTube stream, so I don't want to close. And that's the tone I'm mixing. It's a bit more greenish than it looks in camera. Okay. I want a lot of desaturation, so I'm not worried about mixing this kind of reddish tones with the green, but I'm using that to my own advantage. Again. Sorry guys, I really think it's dependent on the moment of the day. I'll try to close these. I don't have anything down in background, but the camera is still not willingly to work. Okay. Let's close these. Deactivate. I'm trying to minimize everything else. And save. Okay, now I have a single camera. I'm still learning it. Thank you so much. Even with the stream issues, I'm still learning a lot. Sorry about that. The basic set. Before bake more. Yeah, I totally agree with the basic set technique. Every time I buy a new set of paints, I always buy only primaries if I can, and for primaries I mean cyan, magenta, and yellow. Usually every line has something like that, and yeah, I try them by mixing, by making my own tones, so I know that I can expand maybe on different tones. So here I'm insisting in the upper parts, in the upper volumes. I want to create a rough sketch of the lights. Let's super annoying. And I want to set again the volumes. With the ink I set a bit of the main tone and the shadows, and here I'm starting to work on the lights basically. And you see that I'm super rough and aggressive in these parts. Again, I'm almost not diluting the paint because I really want to follow this natural texture and to add more and more. Oh, still working. We're lucky. He's collaborating a bit. Again, I'll try to find the reason of this because personally I'm really enjoying this kind of real-time chat with you. I have to be a bit better at checking the chat while working, but I think is a skill I can learn doing more of this. So you see how quick it is to set the main sensation. Especially if you are working. In this case, I wanted to renounce to the main to the initial black and white sketch. Usually I rely on that much more, but in this case I really wanted to show you the general idea of doing that with the colors. I like the sketch because it really breaks the problem of painting, let's call it, I don't want to call it problem, the flow of painting in different smaller tasks. And since the values are a very important and essential thing of the model, because again, you can totally enjoy a black and white picture without the colors, and it can still be a beautiful picture and work perfectly. And if you use the sketch, you know from the beginning that your model is working, and your model will work. If you get the right volumes and lights, is like getting the reality of the situation in which the model is standing. And it doesn't really matter if you are going outside in a blue t-shirt or a yellow t-shirt, but you are entering a precise set of light, you are entering a precise environment. Then, to add interest to the scene, you add the colors, and that's the moment where the color of the t-shirt becomes meaningful, becomes important. But to give the idea that that person or that model is really standing in a certain kind of light and is catching the light as a real person, a real human, or in this case a real huge monster, in a certain environment, you have to get lights and volumes. And with that you have all the contrast, you have the physical presence of the figure. Because we don't have to forget that this model it's freezed, but gave us a bit more time. That this model is just probably 6-7 centimeters, or this guy here is just a couple of centimeters, and we have to fake his presence in the environment to give the sensation that he is probably a man of a couple of meters, of 4 feet. I still have to learn about feet. I'm really good with inches, but not with feet. That's the wargamer deformation. No, I don't want to use it here on the neck. I probably should use it here to create a bit of volume. Yeah, I'm really sketching shapes at this point. A bit more subtle here because I want to go in the dark. I really like how he's going the volumes of the leg. I want an edge of light here. So you see that that previous step with the ink helped me to frame this kind of strong shadow here. And this information was already there from the super simple gray and black sketch. It was super rough and super simple, made with a spray can, but again, you still have informations from that information. Attiva. Anche per l'Italia, scusate per tutti questi saltelli. Ok, let's check the chat. Single pigments. I promise that I review the whole chat later, and if it's something that I didn't answer, I'll reply in a way or another. In a second, we can get anything like that. Yeah, Doug is on the right track with his analysis. Okay, so we are at this point. Still very rough, but again, that's what I was looking for this model. So these will be blended inside the model. Will not be a proper drawing, but it will be still there, because even if stage by stage I'll work on top of these, I'll glaze on top of these, I'll adjust the shadows, and now I'm working only with this kind of basic tone here. Yeah, oh, that's how it goes now. I know it's annoying, especially for me. I'll jump probably in this kind of brownish warm tones I set from the beginning, reinforcing them with the darker notes, something like this, to bridge a bit the tone with the purple I have on the statue. So you have to start thinking about this as a fluid and dynamic process. And there's nothing wrong in simplifying for gaming, because you have a precise objective in that spot, in that idea, in that situation. So you are simplifying because you need to paint a couple hundred models. But try always to aim for the best way to achieve a good painting. Then when you know this stuff, when you know how to move in this way, you can simplify everything. And even if you'll never paint for a competition, or you'll never paint for a model show, you can still learn some tricks to use in your gaming models. And then will be your choice to not use them. Again, I'm not saying that you have to become a master anyway. But that if you try to understand these advanced concepts, you can really use them everywhere. So you see that at this stage, when I set my main values, my main sketching, I start moving on the palette, creating new tones and new stuff. I wanted to keep this simple, but I really feel the need of other colors. So usually I mix a lot of stuff from the beginning of the palette. But here I wanted to keep this discussion and this process in a simpler way. But when you start having the tones, so you have some pure green here, maybe with a bit of blue to make it colder, and this bit of brown inside. This could be a nice shadow or dark mid-tone for the green. I have this kind of tone, but let's say that I want it a bit more desaturated. I can add a bit of green also here. It will make it more grayish, and I'll have this kind of transition between the two. And if needed, I can jump between the two to make more a mid-tone, to make a darker shadow where I want to move to warmer tones, and not to want to use black, but I want to use a bit more purple here and a bit of magenta to make it same value but a bit warmer. And it's diluted, but let's see it here. Not so much. I use dilution in this case to create transparency more than flow. So I'm not washing, but I'm adding more transparent sensations. When I work on the sketch, increasing what I already have from the previous layers. So there are a lot of spots where I have to really think about the shapes, because maybe the airbrush wasn't super precise, I didn't have a proper sketch. But for the most part, all the information are already there. So I need only to follow those ideas. Make a bit of black, but I'll use it only for the black layer here, for the black lining. And that's why we call it a sketch, because it's like when you draw and you sketch on a piece of paper. That's the initial and main information you have to make your drawing better and more complex and more precise. But if you're not Karl Kopinski that starts from the eyes and the nose of the face, but because he's total genius, you still start from the simple shape of the face, the two lines to understand the volume of the face, and then you build on top of that. And we are doing something really similar, so why we should skip the sketch. Hop, hop. Okay, it's becoming a routine now. Here I want to separate a bit. Just a bit more. I want to define a bit more this shape, so I'm starting adding from the almost beginning this kind of lines, because the sculpture in this case is not really helping me. It's really smooth, not defined as the real statue, so I'm starting adding what it seems like an arch edge in this case. It's pretty schematic, but you see from the distance that now is easier to read that spot, and I'm not leaving at the end this kind of super harsh line, but I'm layering the information. And now I can maybe highlight around here, because it's a spot where there is a lot of light. Oop. It's a bit more. Yeah, I can start also highlighting inside these shapes here. I don't want to arrive here on the top, because there will be a lot of shadow projected from the neck, and I want to keep it dark. Still want to start adding something. You see that I'm moving with the necessities of the model. So now that I increased a bit the shadows, again, I feel the need of some extra lights. So I'm layering a bit of light inside the shapes and the sensations I created with the first super simple layer. And I'm working inside those lights, because I'm increasing what is already there. And since now my values are higher, I'm not putting this light color down here on the last branches, but I'm working it in the upper part. Will still be probably around here, especially because our light is coming from this side. Still I have to maintain the sensation that light coming from above is really coming from above, so it's not able to go this deep and low. Already adding these little touches of paint, I'm already refining that line that I put around the cloth and the fabric. So the line is less harsh and visible. It's difficult because I'm working a bit angled to be inside the camera. But in reality I can reach better these spots here, so it's not a drama. So let's check chat and time. Of colors. No, I don't have an artistic formation, and I had a very scientific formation, especially in the last years. That's only passion and my need to explore these kind of topics. So I attended a lot of workshops, I did a lot of personal lessons with crazily good painters, and tried to read a lot and to study by myself all these topics. And again, study the illustrations, study stuff like go to websites like ArtStation, and you'll have an infinite library of images and stuff you can study, and retro engineering, because that's the point. Retro engineering the study of great illustrators, what trained illustrators and artists already know and put in practice, and you can really see the full extension of their knowledge, and you can really study from the final product how to use those ideas in your works. Can you say happy birthday to me? Sure, happy birthday! That's a pleasure. Happy birthday, buddy. There's a golden floor high body. I have a couple of golden heavy body and golden. No, I have golden in here. Is easier to find Liquitex heavy body, but I have some golden paint, and I'm testing these days the high flow acrylics. These are really nice for the airbrush. Oh, since I was talking, it's not really so bad that it's stuck. These kind of paints, the high flow, are really nice for the airbrush. You can put them directly in the airbrush, and you have a behavior quite similar, not really the same, because the physical properties and the chemical properties of the inks are different, but you can obtain something quite similar, especially if you take this kind of super saturated kind of colors. And for the heavy body, I have a drawer full of Liquitex. Heavy body is really good. You have a product that is quite similar to the Kimera Kolors for the concentration of pigment, for the stable solution of pigments, and we are stuck again. Whoop. Whoop. They don't have the same covering power of Kimera. That's the main difference, I think. And obviously the consistency. It depends on how you paint. You can see how dense and extremely solid they are. These are very good if you are if you like the sketch style. If you have this kind of approach where you use the thickness of the paint and you use the solidity and the body of this paint to your own advantage. If you use this kind of paint to make the extreme dilutions and the glazes, they are still super good for glazes, but again, you can do this with any kind of paint. These are not cheap, so if you are buying heavy bodies because you want to use their body for a reason. So, great saturation, great pigment, the quality of the pigment and the stable solution of the pigment, but even the darkest color they are not able to cover like Kimera, because Kimera are a bit more in the hobby paint spectrum. So you have this kind of quality, but they considered our need of heavy covering and great opacity. Also, these are super matte. Again, it depends on how you paint and what do you need from paints, because again, you can alter these with their own medium, making them a bit more satin, while these are naturally satin. So it really depends on how you use them and how you plan to use them. So I really like to use these tones, these colors, these paints for skin tones, because they are already a bit glossy, a bit satin, so they give that kind of natural feel. Well, let's put my face so we know that we are not stacked, or at least we have something to say. Okay. Save. And if you want to paint something like non-metal, you want more this kind of opacity and matte finish. So it really depends on the situation. You can alter both. You can dilute these, you can dilute these, you can dark, completely dark. Sorry, it's not a great conclusion. I'll try to fix it. Oop. I think we lost the main camera. Okay. Maybe at the end I discovered that something is literally broken. And let's enlarge this because, sorry again, I can't see a easy solution to this problem. And what is the best reason to use heavy bodies? Again, if you want to use their structure and their body to make this kind of strong sketches, if you want to really use the consistency. I'm trying to activate a bit the other cameras. The system is betraying me. Whoop. So property, activate, okay. Whoop. Again, the reason is to use this kind of behavior, to make the brush strokes really matter on the paint job. If you like the strength of the paint, if you like their physical presence of the paint. Again, they make incredible glazes when you start diluting them, but there's no point in spending a lot of money, because these are expensive paints, if you want this kind of consistency. So you have to use the body. I made it just in time for the technical difficulties. Yeah, sorry. I'm starting thinking that my external battery is dead, because it never happened. And what is the problem still going? Thanks. What method do you use to blend the sketching colors together? Oh yeah. If I can put the main camera on again. The way to fix the sketch, again, you can do it in a variety of different ways. I'll try for the last time to have the main camera on again, because I want to show you how to move from the sketch to the refined product. Ugh. Okay, something. It will probably stuck again, but at least we have something. Okay. Refining the sketch is a matter of continuing on the work you were already doing. So every time, now I add the base tone and like here, a single light. And inside that I put another little light. So already that is creating the illusion of transition. So that's a way you can continue layering the lights and the shadows in a super smooth continuity, one inside the other. That's not really smooth. I added another light here. And little by little you'll create just by layering the illusion of transition. And that's something that could be enough to give... that's a process that needs a few hours of work. So it's difficult to demonstrate the process at its full. But again, layering is one. You can glaze these transitions, takes even more, or better, you can glaze in between the transitions. So let's see something easy to see in a couple of brush strokes. Like something like I did here. This was more a wet blending, but if you want to fix this transition here, you can just glaze an intermediate tone between the first one and the second one, actively mixing 50% of each of the two, and then let's make it a proper glaze. Glaze in the transition. So working on both sides, you'll smooth the point where the two meet together. And with a single pass is already smoother. So the cleaning of the sketch is just adding stuff on top, because this sketch was totally incomplete, because I had only a couple of steps of the full sketch. Probably here on the Scala I were a bit more advanced because I used 4 steps at the end. And it's already more refined than the body, just because I used more steps in the same place. And then again, you can airbrush this kind of effect, this kind of glaze. It's something like it's really the Sergio Calvo technique, the Sergio Calvo approach. Again, where you blend the layers with the airbrush at the end instead of the brush. So you get much more speed, because you don't have to think about every single transition, but you airbrush in all the midtones, blending this kind of steps. So it's a bit difficult to explain, because it's not really a precise step, like you say first, second, third highlight, first, second, third shadow, but it's this kind of dynamic process where when you added your shadows and your lights, there isn't a fixed number, but you stop when you feel that you don't have the need of any extra shadow or any extra light. And at that point, you have already a blend. So then we can discuss about the smoothness of that blend. And you can decide if you need to smooth or not. Like here, going on with the sketch, I'll probably keep this part here. Well, I need to fix this because it's super rough. But I'll keep the general sensation more like this here on the chest. While on the statue, I'll try to go with this kind of airbrush smoothness, because I want to give the sensation of two different materials and real physical textures. But I'll give them the same amount, or I don't know if there will be the same amount, but probably yeah, the same amount of lights and shadows. And at the end they will look completely different. This will look a proper smooth statue, and this will look like this, super organic and with all the fibers stretching and moving. So the refining of the sketch is that kind of moving process. Thanks. I use stippling or small strokes. It depends. Here I stippled on the skull, while on the body I went with the strokes. So here on the skull I used only this kind of motion with the tip of the brush, trying to give the sensation of a lot of extra movement, while my sculpture was irregular but quite smooth, because I used alcohol to smooth the general shapes. And here I went with all the little strokes, creating the idea, here is a bit more refined, that there is some tension under the skin, like the fibers of the muscles stretching in various directions. And that's a powerful tool to create different sensations, because if you don't use that, you obtain the effect like in GW Space Marines, where you have the cape that has the exact same sensation of the armor. Everything is smooth, everything is plain, and you don't have the sensation from the different sensation from a piece of cloth, a banner, or the armor. It's just the same kind of blend and the same kind of sensations all over the model. And since it's really simple to obtain these kind of little differences, you can still keep the painting super simple for gaming, but adding different strokes under these kind of super subtle effects to increase the quality of your models to the maximum. Okay, try using little foam makeup sponge instead. We'll keep their paint glossy. Is that a matting agent? Will desaturate color just a bit? Yeah, that's true. As Doug was saying, the matte medium will totally change the tones of the paint, so you get that natural shine because of the proper structure of the pigments and the proper recipe of that paint. You run into any problem when cleaning an oil wash with cotton swabs? Yeah, that's something that everybody asks me about, the Q-tips and the Q-tips and oil wash. And that's something that is not really a problem if you have little hair remaining on the figure, because when everything is dry you can just brush the model super quickly and you can clean everything. You use them when you clean the model, not when you are painting the model, so they don't get trapped inside the paint. When the oil is dry, a super quick clean with the dry brush and you can get rid of everything. The golden capes, we did that. The makeup sponges are fine, they work well, but I don't like the fact that I need to constantly change them, because I can't really clean them, and the Q-tip can be just thrown away and you don't have to worry about buying a lot of little sponges. You can just take another one. That's why I'm sticking with the Q-tips, even if they are a bit more aggressive on the surface. So I prefer to adjust my touch to the model. Are they for Banshee? I'm very looking for to test them. Yeah, I tried the scale 75 artist range, and they are incredibly good. They work like Kimera with this kind of consistency, and you can totally mix them with Kimera Kolors, and they are lovely paints. You get the best from every possible features you want from an hobby paint. They cover well. I like their body, especially because I like to work in this way, so I really like to have that kind of density, and the pigment is really good. With stability on texture, makeup applicators. Yeah, I have difficulty to use the makeup applicators and the sponges, because it's one of those things that I constantly have to remind to buy, and to find a place where to find them cheap. Well, I know that every time I'm at the grocery store, I can just grab a box of Q-tips. In terms of oils, still not dry and shiny. So the drying time of oils is a problematic question, because it's mostly linked to the quantity of oil you have inside. But if you are making a wash, you are taking away most of the oil inside of the paint. You are not really using the thick paint with this full content of oil, so that shouldn't be a problem. But again, you have to dilute them well, and you have to clean them well, because if you are using a thick wash, you want really to clean well the surface. And if you leave a lot of oil on top, is not the oil giving you problem, is the quantity of white spirit remaining on the surface. So you want to control a bit that. And cleaning, you're basically taking away all that layer of paint. So you should have a bit of oil only inside the details. I will upload this. Yeah. It will be a bit cringe, but I think I'll upload everything with the other videos. Even if the general quality is not high as the other videos, and we have a lot of these bumps, I want to publish everything. Yeah, it's the linseed oil. There are fast drying oils, and at the end they are just the same oils with less white spirit inside. No white spirit, with less oil inside. So if you want to get the same kind of behavior, you can take off the extra content of oil, putting them on top of a piece of cardboard. The oil will be sucked by the cardboard, and you'll get more pigment inside the same volume of paint. And yeah, that's the real game changer. Oh, we jumped. What a surprise. I don't do that usually, because I prefer to have the full content of oil so I can blend them a bit better. So if I'm using the washes, I don't really care about the linseed oil, because I'm cleaning everything. So I have just a bit of oil inside the crevices. If I'm painting with oils, I like to keep the oil to give the fluidity of the brush stroke and that consistency of the oil that really helps the blend. So it's really rare for me to need to use the cardboard trick. Still something you can do to obtain different effects. If you want like a weathering on a tank, and if you want a dusty sensation, it's better to dry the paint so you get more pigment and you get that dusty finish at the end. So it could be interesting to play with the content of oils, more to create different kind of sensations than anything else. I get the Kimera from their website. I try to be always informed when there is a new stock, and when I buy them 2 copies of the box at the same time. So I have in a drawer another set of Kimera. They are a small company with just a few people working in the bottling, the packaging, every step of the process of sending you those colors. So they can't really handle a huge selling volume. But my main sources is the original Kimera website. There are a couple of different websites that they have it. I think the Scale 75 website have a little stock. For Europe, PK Pro is a German website. You can find them here every now and then, especially the single tones. Chalk washes, no, something new, but I'm already excited by the name, the chalk washes. Yeah, especially take a look at the Facebook group. I'll tell you why I'm laughing. And what I was saying. Yeah, take a look at the Facebook group of Kimera Kolors, because they tell every time there is a new stock coming, with a little bit of advantage to people just coming on the website. So try that. The Abteilung are very good oils for modeling, and they dry faster, because you'll notice that as soon as you open the bottle and as you open the tube, they have much less oil. But again, they are mostly used for weathering. So all these effects when you need to see a bit of the dust, a bit of the pigment. I never tried them for a proper blending on the skin. I use them for a lot of weathering effects, and for that they are super good. But again, I like to have a bit more oil for a smooth blending and that kind of really painterly move. Yeah, my Mary are good. Are really good, especially for their price point. They are great color, and their price is amazing. You get even too much paint in those big bottles. So if you, I think it's difficult to find them outside Italy. At least I never saw them in a Irish shop. But in Italy, if you find the My Mary bottles, try them because they are super good. And yeah, that's my full-time job. I paint, I teach, and last year I started this YouTube experience. But yeah, every day I get up and I paint until it's the other day, the new day. Thanks, guys. Love you. Use the stained metal dishes. Yeah, that's my the question that everybody asks. The little plates. I'll show you them here because I don't want to refresh the camera anymore, but I'll do it anyway. I can't accept this problem. The little plates are a souvenir from Korea. Last year I went in Korea and I found that they sell these in big boxes of I think 100 pieces every time, and I took a huge quantity of them. It's difficult to find them here, but in modeling shops you can still find them. Online and on eBay especially you can find really good prices, and yeah, and now AK Interactive is a Spanish company that makes also the Optalum paints. They have their own version, so if you are in Europe, but they sell also internationally, so it's not a problem to find them. But I have to unveil a big secret. My favorite way to handle paint are these kind of glass candle holders, and these could be really washed for again forever, because they are glass, they are super resistant, they are really thick, and you can wash them from any kind of paint or product for years and ages. So that's my favorite way to mix and move the paint. You lose a bit of paint here in the thickness, in the height of the holder, but the base is the same, and at a certain point this will start staining and catching the color, and at the end also rusting, because there is some kind of protective layer here on top that after a few washes will be ruined and washed away. So if you find something like this made in glass or metal in equipment for the kitchen, go with that. Don't suffer too much looking for the metal plates. Yeah, AliExpress could be an option, especially because again, it is a thing for Gundam modeling, something like that is where I discovered them. So if you go to Eastern websites, it's probably easier to find them. But there are many other options to solve the same problem. There's any blades for painting with the stuff. Don't ever leave the water in there overnight. Exactly. They rust easily and quickly. I refresh again. Even if I'm not showing anything, now is a personal battle. Yeah, U-Star is pretty common, especially on eBay. But €4 is a bit too much. You should spend more around 2 and something, 3 and something for the 12 pieces. You can find a better deal. These are cheaper. These are definitely cheaper. Okay, so it's officially 3 hours of flashing streaming. Sorry again for that. Never happened in all the online lessons I made in the last few weeks. And we are still in a very initial point. I always use speed as my main thing on YouTube, but I really wanted to paint something different today with you. But I think that in these few little steps I made my point about how many different ways of painting and the reasons why to use these different approaches you have at disposal. So again, this is not a display model, this will be used for gaming, but since I want to convey specific sensations and a specific mood, I change my way of painting a little, adapting the techniques I use every time in a different way, and using the colors, the textures, the brush strokes to give different sensations. Because something that probably I forgot to mention, the choice of going heavier with the inks on the statues that give this kind of more glossy sensation, and go with super matte paint here on the skin, is something that it was from the beginning in my plan to give, again, different sensations. Something that probably you lose in picture and here in camera, but when you see the model in person, and again, I paint for the people and for myself that will have this model on the shelf. Pictures are important for a commercial point of view, because probably most of the followers, viewers and clients will see more your work in a picture, but my main goal is to satisfy the experience of someone having the model in the hands. So all these tricks will make everything a bit more interesting and a bit better. I'll check for the last questions. I made them. All the Blasphemous minis are conversions. So this is the base is a souvenir, is a little statue of the Piedad made in plaster. The others were Stormcast with everything sculpted. Thanks a million. Today was a good school, was a good big trial. Trying to teach and speak in English and Italian, and trying to explain everything at the same time with 400 people looking. It was exciting. Usually I am a bit more coherent when I'm one-on-one. So I think that we can close here, especially because I think that the camera is stuck again. I really hope you liked the stream. It was a really strange experience, I have to admit. I really liked the part when we are talking, because I like also the videos to be a conversation between us. So I really like to answer to all the comments and all the questions, because that's we can really have a contact. Thank you so much, guys, for everything, for your generosity, because it was totally unexpected, and I'm super flattered, and I really didn't predict this. So thank you so much for that, and have a great evening. Stay safe. I don't want to go in the scientific details of this situation, but you know everything. So stay at home, wash your hands, and take care of your loved ones. Oh yeah, could I spin the model once more? That's for sure. Super easy. And the camera is still working. So that's the situation. Is a bit more defined in some parts, a bit less in others. Whoop. Nothing really interesting here. I want to add a bit of cracks, some other information here. Maybe a bit of painted moss and stuff like that, because it's really flat and empty. Down here, again, you can see that my main goal at the beginning was the separation between the two, and a bit of contrast around the different shapes of the model, because again, this is a single piece of not really defined plaster. Let's see if there is some extra question in my life. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, probably I should have. I should set a time for the end, because I can really just talk endlessly. Grazie. Gianmaria amico. Grazie mille. È sempre un piacere, davvero. Okay. I don't know if there is a smooth way to close a stream, but I think you'll just see everything go dark. So again, guys, thanks a million to have been with me, for the company, for the chats, and yeah, for everything. Thank you so much. See you soon, guys. Bye.